What's up, everyone? All right, well, today is the biggest green day of 2026 for me. I am grateful. We had a huge move on Monday, a stock that went up 5,000%. It was unbelievable. And I felt like I didn't fully capitalize on that opportunity. I finished the day in the green, but I didn't make nearly as much as I felt I coulda, woulda, shoulda if I had just stuck around a little longer. The problem was the move took place later in the morning and into the afternoon, which isn't when I'm normally trading. So I missed it. Now, it was a green day in the small account. I'm grateful for that. It was a green day in the big account too, but I think I was up around $12,000. It was nothing that crazy. Yesterday, we had a 2,000% short squeeze. And yesterday, I was able to lock up a little over $40,000. I peaked at 50 grand, and then I gave back about 27,000 in one trade, dropping me back to about 23,000 green on the day, and then made 20,000 on my next trade and walked away with about 43,000. And that was risky because taking that next trade, if it hadn't gone right, I was going to potentially give back even more in my day. Today, everything came together. But what sometimes happens is after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of really great price action, you start to anticipate that everything's going to keep going higher, and then you have a big red day. So the fact that my green days are getting bigger as we get further into this hot streak is a really good sign. For me, it means that I'm getting better at capitalizing on the opportunity and not overstaying my welcome. So it does mean that on those first trades, I'm coming out of the gate swinging with a little bit of bigger share size than I was a month ago when it was still really cold. But that's the right move right now. And this is the important thing about being a trader, is adapting to the market that's right in front of you. So as much as I would have loved to have had a 5,000% move again today, we didn't get that. But we did have a stock that squeezed up 950%. And on that stock alone, as of right now, I am in the green on that stock, $83,285.62. The ticker is DSY. This is amazing. I mean, this is really nice. This was the move here. Well, let's see, I didn't click from the very bottom, but a 950% short squeeze. Very strong. So here's the big reveal. I'm sitting up $141,921.72. The biggest green day of the year by quite a decent margin. Like I said, I'm grateful. It's days like this that make a big difference. So currently I'm sitting up on the year before today, right around 1.1 million. So today is, adds more than 10%. I mean, now I'm going to be at 1.24 million, right? So a day like today does make a big difference. And it's why it's important to show up every day as much as you can, because you just never know when things are going to really connect. Now, I've been stepping up to the plate, and, it doesn't always connect. I'll step up to the plate, I'll take that big position, and it's a swing and a miss. But today, I stepped up, I had a couple good swings, and they connected. And man, this is what the day looks like. Now, someone was asking me, Ross, do you think you could make $1 million in one day? And I said, I think that I can. I know that I can, but we would need a stock to go up like at least $20 or $30 a share, basically like straight up. Because on this stock here, I made $83,000. And if we look at the total move, it went from $2 to $20. So for me to 10x that, it would need to go from $2 to 200, or I would need to 10x my position size, or some combination somewhere in the middle. The fact is, I trade with big size, but I don't trade with such big size that I could, pull $1 million out of a $2, $3 a share move. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I am being more aggressive, and I've been trading, for a long time. And so I think educated intuition continues to improve, and my confidence to step up to the plate is also getting better. All right, so first let's kind of talk about big picture. Now, if you've already tuned into my small account challenge for today, you know that I also traded this stock in my small account, and I made $1,000 there, which is great. So $1,000 in the small account started with $2,000. Now it's up at like $4,200, so it's already up over 100% in 3 days. That's great. Okay, so this was the only stock I traded. In the small account, I only took one trade. In my big account, gosh, I must have taken, let's see, it shows I have 201 tickets on the stock. 201 times I either pressed the buy or sell button. So I traded it quite a lot. And so I can't go over every single trade because there were so many, but we could talk big picture about some of the specific really nice setups, a couple of the trades that didn't work out as well, and the technical levels that I was looking at. So when I sat down this morning, I saw one of the first things that I was doing was looking at the scan, and I saw that we already had a couple of Chinese stocks up big with no news. And so I thought, all right, this might be a day kind of like yesterday. But yesterday, if we look at PAVS, for instance, we had a number of stocks that made moves kind of like this, where, yeah, they went up from $2 to $27 a share, but then they came all the way back down. So I thought, what is the net sentiment from that kind of move? Is it bearish? Is it, ooh, don't get in one of these? Or is it trade to the long side, but don't overstay your welcome? In fact, I've seen some short sellers say they're not shorting and in fact flipping long on these on the first move up just to ride the momentum and then shorting later. And I've seen some long bias traders who are saying, I'm flipping short after I get out because these are giving us such extreme moves. So that's a really hot market when people are flipping directions. But that's what we're seeing right now. So I wasn't sure exactly what sentiment would look like, but I did notice that MSW moved up after hours, but pre-market, it stair-stepped right back down. Hong Kong company, right? No news. It's this big frenzy, high volatility, so no follow-through on that one. Then you had CIIT, Hong Kong company, goes from $1 up to $8 a share. It was the leading gainer coming into 7 a.m. right here. And I wondered if maybe it was going to give us an opportunity for kind of an inverted head and shoulders pattern here and a squeeze back up to 8, but we didn't get that curl. Of course, there was no news, but even in spite of no news, we've seen others that have curled. So that one was strong. It was still holding above the VWAP coming into 6:37 a.m. Chow, this one is a Hong Kong company as well, popped up early and sold off. All of these, for the most part, have no news. PAVS, a little bounce off the low. Then CIIT at 4:04 in the morning. It's getting a little more momentum. GMEX. And then we had HCAI. HCAI squeezes from 9 to 20 and then comes back down to 9, basically. It bounced up a little bit here just about an hour ago, but that feels pretty bearish. That's like, yikes. That's a high volume red candle, a big rejection. So I didn't like seeing that. AZI had traded it the other day, little bounce, but nothing really. I guess this was the one from yesterday. But that was about it. That was early 4 a.m. and then a little bounce at the open, but nothing really to trade there. CIIT starts to get more volume. By 4:19, it's got 7 million shares. People are definitely focusing on it, and it squeezes from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, and it goes higher. BGLC, this is Malaysia, pops up and immediately reverses. Well, it's Malaysian. It's not even Chinese. So of course it reverses. I'm just kidding. There's really no, I don't understand exactly why we default to Chinese stocks popping up like this when the market's hot, but it just tends to happen. It does sometimes happen with Malaysian, but it's mostly Chinese. Sometimes Singapore as well. AMSS pops and drops. So I came in at 7 a.m. thinking, I don't know. CIIT is holding up. That one's the most obvious, but we've seen some others that are popping and then rejecting pretty hard. So I said, I'm going to have to be careful today because if I get on the wrong side of a low volume move, it could be bad. So I said to myself, be careful on light volume stuff, wait for the volume to pick up and make sure the stock really feels obvious. 453 VSME pops up. This one ends up squeezing right here, as you can see, all the way up to $6 a share. So we got a really big move on that. 5 a.m. HTCO pops up, another rejection. So it was a bit mixed in the early pre-market trading. WCT, this one pops up as well from $1.50 to $4.50 and then comes back down. So this one, let's just check this because it says it's a US company, but sometimes that's wrong because it's in, so sometimes I wonder if they do this intentionally. But in any case, that's not a US company. All right, so it's in Hong Kong. All right, so anyway, so a bunch of these stocks popping up. So we come to 7 a.m. and I'm sitting here thinking, all right, how am I going to approach trading this morning? So the first stock that I traded was VSME. And on VSME, this is the way I approached it. Clearly, coming into 7 a.m., it felt obvious. It was already moving pretty quickly, as you could see right here. And so CIIT had kind of gone out of favor. And this is sort of the interesting thing is today was a little bit of a game of hot potato. Traders jumping quickly from stock to stock to stock to stock. And as soon as one looked bad, they were jumping onto the next one. And so I was trying to kind of ride these waves around the market, but it wasn't completely easy. Even though I'm up quite a lot, it's difficult because you can fall into the habit of chasing, getting in too high, and then you're in as attention shifts. So my first trade was at $3.09 on VSME. I got in right here as this curled back up. We got a squeeze up to 4, up to 450, up to 5, and I wished I had punched it in the small account, but I didn't. I made $27,000. Awesome start to the day. That's a squeeze up to 538. It then pulls back, it bases out right here, and I take another trade so the total is 27,000. I take another trade right through here and it squeezed up to 650 and I got out. I still didn't trade it in the small account, but we had a couple really nice opportunities. So the first pullback for me was right here, first entry at 3, and then just these areas, little dip, selling in the pop, buying the dip, selling the pop. It pulls back a little bit, but once it bases out and curls, back in and looking for the squeeze higher, topping tail, and that's a tweezer top. So a tweezer top, or should we say a chopstick top, since it's a Chinese stock. Maybe that's rude. I don't know. But in any case, we've got the double top here. I like Chinese food. So in any case, we get that double top, that little rejection. And what that typically means, you don't want to get pinched by tweezers. You don't want to get pinched by chopsticks either, if we're going to be honest. You don't want to get pinched. And so when you have those two topping tails like that, that tells us that while the price surged higher, sellers were stronger and they pushed it back down. They pulled it back down. It pops up again and then same thing. So those two topping tails in a row are bearish. We don't like to see that. It ends up reversing and coming back down. All right, so anyways, this one ends up kind of rolling over. It comes back up a little bit later in the morning, and then check out this. This is a jackknife. It pops up and flushes back down. You do not like that. It goes up and then it halts down. And some people got, beaten up on that drop. So we don't like seeing that. That's disappointing. But in any case, so that was my first trade, VSME. I didn't overstay my welcome on it. GCDT was the next stock I traded. So if we zoom up on the scanners here, VSME, you can see lighting up the scanner right through here. And then where was it? KIDZ popped up. So GCDT popped up right here. About 20 million shares of volume. Huge relative volume. Again, Hong Kong company, no news. So on this one, we get this first pop and it goes all the way to 250. It drops down, and then when it comes back up, I got in at 250 right there. So got in for the break at 250. I didn't get in as low as I could have. I added at 238 and then 245 for the break at 250. But we got to squeeze up to 3 and then up to 350. So on that one, I locked up $10,000. And now the day is really cranking, right? I'm like, here we go. This is going to be a pretty big green day. It's early. I'm already up $37,000 or whatever it was. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. Then we have KIDZ that pops up. KIDZ pops up and I think, I don't know, US company. Yes, it's got some AI news, but it's a US company. So I thought for that reason, I just don't know if it's going to work. Now, if we open the filings, you could see here, New York, New York. So this feels quite legitimately like a US company. Although we check the name of the CEO and I suppose we could double check it and look a little bit more deeply. So let's see. New York, New York. Okay. Yeah, so, I don't know, but in any case, I read it as a U.S. company. It seems that the headline's coming from New York. So it pops up, and like many of the others, it rejects. Now, some of the ones that are Chinese companies also rejected, but this one didn't really catch a bid. The funny thing is it actually had news, but maybe that's a bad thing. If people want no news so they can speculate that it could go to the moon. ELAB, actually puts out a headline talking about space exploration. And this week I've been very much thinking we would have some type of space catalyst. We had 2 space catalysts last week, and they gave me huge trades. And we haven't had that yet this week. Maybe tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe Friday? I'm not sure. But anyways, this stock is well known for not holding up at all. And so this one didn't surprise me that it rejected. So no trades on that. The 741 VSME goes up to 650, pushes a little higher. And then DSY pops up right here at about $2.10 on our scanner. So as this was at about 742. And so VSME at 742-ish had just hit this high, which was right up here. And we had this double topping tail, right? So I was like, I think that's going to need to pull back for a little bit. So that starts pulling back, and not a minute later, DSY hits the scanner. Chinese, no news. And I'm like, all right, but is it going to reverse like KIDZ? Is it going to hold? I don't know. So it initially pops up and it squeezes here from a low of $2 all the way up here to 3, and then it pushes up to 4 and to 5. So I'm going to pull up the 10-second chart on this one so I can give you a little bit of a zoom in on where I started trading it. So as it pops up right here, let's see, this was actually my first trade, that little pullback right down there. So we got that as my first trade. It goes from 3 up to 480. Then it pulls back, it pushes a little higher, rejects, comes back up to 5, doesn't pull away, sort of pulls back again, goes up to 580, up to 640. We're seeing some topping tails here, so this got a little tricky. Then it breaks through 640 and rips all the way to $10 a share. And that right there put me up on the day about $95,000. So I guess I don't remember exactly how much I made just in that move there. I continued taking other trades, which now come to think of it, where did I trade KIDZ? KIDZ. Let's see. Let's go back to that one. You know what? It must have been right in here. Yeah, it was. So I thought I was like, this is not going to work. Double top, topping tail. And then when it pulled away right here, I did take the micro pullback on this. And you know, look, it went up to 5, but I really wasn't very confident in it. It took smaller size. I actually forgot about that trade, but yeah, I didn't jump in as early as I could have either. I think I got in right in this area. So we got a little pop higher there from about 420 up to 5. But then we ended up getting that gravestone doji candle right there as it reversed back down. So not surprising that that one didn't hold up. But anyway, so let's see. So I already had KIDZ. I had this one right here, and I had VSME. So I was already up, let's see, 37. So 42,000 on the day. Then, so I must have made about 50 grand on DSY as it hit a high of 10. So all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I said to myself, you know, I think my biggest green day this year is like 85,000. And I keep kind of hitting that level, and then it doesn't, like, I'm not getting higher. So I was like, all right, well, maybe that is as good as it's going to get here today. I don't know. But it was quite early still. That move on DSY was only at about, well, what time was that? This was at like 7:54. It wasn't even 8 a.m. So part of me is like, should I lock it up? The other part of me is like, well, you know, clearly if there was a day to push it, it would be today. This doesn't seem like this is the day to walk away early. So I stuck around. We got this drop below VWAP, and I said, what we might want to watch is to see if it breaks back above VWAP, because we could get a trap. Shorts get trapped, shorting below VWAP, and then you get the rip back up. We had that happen the other day, and it happened again here. So this was a really nice example of that trade. It doesn't always work. You know, I mean, probably more often than not, we break VWAP and we keep going lower. But in this case, it did work. Now, we did have an issue on this one, which was we kept running into resistance up in this area. And the reason for that was because that was the position of the 200 moving average. The 200 moving average was right here at about 965. So that's why we kept running into resistance in this area. But nonetheless, and I'm going to just grab a screenshot of this. I like to try to grab these while I'm at it so I don't forget to do it. So anyway, so we got an inverted head and shoulders pattern, including the break under VWAP and then back over it. We hit a high of 10, we flush down, bounce off VWAP, we come back up, and we squeeze up to here. So through this area, I was trading it, but I wasn't really adding a ton of profit because it kind of wasn't really pulling away. I connected these two highs right here. So we saw resistance, it dips back down, comes back up. I get back in looking for that squeeze back to 11 and thinking we've got room up to 12, ascending resistance. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to pull away, but it did add some profit. And at this point, I got myself to up about 120,000 on the day. So I'm up 120 grand on the day coming into the open. And I'm thinking, again, is this the place to walk away? I don't want to overstay my welcome. So I'm sort of thinking I should. And I said at the open, I'm not going to buy this because it's too risky. The spreads are big. I don't want to catch a pop and then a flush down. And then it literally did a pop and a flush down. So I was like, phew, all right, you saw that coming. Good job. You stayed out of it. Then it curls up here and I said, well, I don't know. We've got this resistance here plus this topping tail and these topping tails. I think I'm going to leave it alone for right now. But it pulls back and then right there, it surges all the way up to a high of $17, $18, and then $20 a share. It drops, and on the resumption, I bought the dip right down here. We caught this bounce right here, and that's what put me up $141,000 on the day, that bounce. So now it's kind of consolidated for a little bit, and then it just rolled over and started to break to the downside, which is not shocking considering it doesn't have news. One concern that I had was the possibility of a T12 halt. We did get a T12 halt this week on INHD. We didn't get one yesterday on PAVS. We haven't gotten one yet today. So, you never really know exactly the rhyme or reason for that, or I don't at least. Maybe some do. But in any case, I was concerned about that as the price was going higher and higher. Without any news. If we had news, I'd feel better about it. However, funny enough, the one that got a T12 actually had news. So that's quite strange. But in any case, so we had that. And then, CLWT, this is one other stock that I traded at some point along the way. So this one had this initial pop up here, hit a high of 4, pulled back, curled back up for the break of VWAP. I don't even remember where I traded that one. I don't remember if it was in the front here or is it curled back up. So that one I'd have to go through. Let's see if I could find where I took the trade on it. Okay, there it is. CLWT. Okay, so 8 a.m. So let's see. So it had the news right there at 8. So let's pull the 10-second chart up. My first entry was 259 and then was adding as it was pushing higher. Chinese stock squeezing up. Okay, so basically, so kind of got in, it looks like right at the break of the $0.50, missed the micro pullback here, and then it pushes higher, took my starter, added for the break of 3, extension up to 360, taking profit, pulling back, buying the dip, and then taking more profit as it squeezed higher. My best exit on it, though, looks like was only 325. Is that right? No, maybe there was another trade in there. Of that trade at least. So maybe that was the first trade. But nonetheless, today we definitely saw momentum. We saw some big moves. And as we know, Friday is the SpaceX IPO. So, this is a big week. I still feel like if we got a headline tied into space, that could perform really well on Thursday or Friday. But we surprisingly haven't gotten one. I'm surprised. I guess if a company had something they could put out that was tied into the SpaceX theme, I think they would put it out because there's no better time than now to do it. So it must just be that there's not enough companies that are that touch that space sector to put out the news. Because like I said, otherwise I think they would. So in any event, this is great that we're seeing some good momentum. June is now, all of a sudden, I haven't really been keeping track, but I had a really good day last week. We had, can't remember which stock it was, but it was one of the space headlines that gave us a big move last week. So that, put me in really good shape there. And then, let's see, we had, I I think I had 2 nice days last week. I think I was up around 90,000 on the week. And then this is now over 200,000 this week. So now it's a, $300,000 month, give or take. And it's, gosh, what's the date? June 10th. So this could become the biggest green month of the year so far. We'll see, but I'm in pretty good shape right now. So I hope you guys are doing well in this market. I will say that if you're not, I will acknowledge that when I was earlier in my career, I found days like this to be very hard. When a stock would go up this much, when they would move this quickly, I just felt like I couldn't. I just felt like I was chasing. I couldn't. The pullbacks would happen too quickly, and I would miss the whole thing. And so I know what that's like to feel that frustration that you're kind of like, just slightly behind the ball. I think the good news right now is that the market, at least currently, we've got such big moves that we're seeing multiple opportunities. So if I do miss the first, there's often a second or third chance, which is good. But with this heightened volatility, there's also the risk of making bigger mistakes. So it is important to sort of counter the impulse or desire to be aggressive because things are hot, with just the sense of kind of presence of mind that when you've got these big swings, you could position the wrong way and suddenly you're down huge. So if you're feeling a little timid, the best treatment for that, or prescription for that, is to reduce share size. Size down a little bit. Yes, we're seeing big swings. I mean, some of these are going up $4, $5, $6 a share, but dropping that much as well. So size down a little bit. And that for me, and step back and look at the big picture patterns. Are we seeing nice pullbacks? And we have been seeing a lot of them. So if the pullback is within a range of 2 points, then to properly trade it, you just need a bigger stop, which means you need smaller size. But if you get a $2 or $3 a share resolution, then that can still work quite well. So with all that said, I'll remind you, as always, that trading is risky and my results aren't typical. This is a very interesting market that we're in. It's exciting to finally see some good momentum this year. It was hot in January, but then cold for a stretch. So I'm going to try to strike while the iron's hot and do the best I can during this window, not knowing how long the window will be open, because we never know. It could be open for, another week. It could be open for a month, 6 months, or a year, or, any of the above. We just don't know. So while it's hot, I don't want to take it for granted. I want to try to, capture as much of the profit as I can, but also remember not to overstay my welcome. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. Please take it slow. Don't try to blindly follow me or anyone else. Trade in a simulator. Get comfortable there first, then test the water with real money, but with small size. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Take it slow. With that, I will see you guys back at it. I'll be streaming tomorrow morning. And if you haven't already checked out our 2-week trial, the link is posted in the description and pinned to the top of the comments. So I'll see you guys streaming bright and early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.